folks, this is Paul Padda of Paul Padda Law, a personal injury attorney here in Las Vegas. Welcome to my podcast on this beautiful Thursday in Las Vegas. It's really sunny and gorgeous today. Could not ask for a better day in Las Vegas. Really honored and privileged to have on the show today Patty Davidson, the Chief Operating Officer of my firm. She has a lot of interesting insights into the legal practice, into business, and just in business in general. So I think you're a great guest to have on, Patty. Before we start talking to you and getting into your background and what you do, I want to ask you a few questions because this is sort of one of the formats we're going to have going into this podcast. It's just some fun facts about our guests that come on. Tell everyone, are you originally from Las Vegas? And if not, where did you move from?
Nope, I'm not originally from Las Vegas, although I've been here almost all my life. But I grew up on a farm in Missouri.
Farm girl.
So, farm girl, absolutely. And then small town girl also. But there was just money to be made in Las Vegas, so I heard. So I moved out here with a boyfriend who said, we will make $1 million if we move to Las Vegas. And so I said, well, who doesn't want to make $1 million? And so.
Did your mother ever tell you should be wary of a man who promises to make you $1 million?
Well, I've learned that now, but no, she wasn't the one that told me. In fact, I think she didn't even know I moved until I called her and said, guess what, we're in Vegas, So we just had that kind of relationship. But
so it was kind of sort of one of those spur of the moment things that brought you to Vegas. It was just sort of like, let's go to Vegas, we can make $1 million.
Absolutely. Who would ever think growing up on a farm in Missouri, you grew up with a dream of going, I am going to be in Vegas someday. I probably didn't even know where it was.
Well, Vegas was built by a city of dreamers, people who dreamed or believed that they could do something in the middle of a desert that no one was ever coming to, and they built this magnificent city. So in a way, your story is actually very much in keeping with that theme.
It's in keeping with the theme that I have about Vegas too, which is if you come here, you work hard, you can make a great living.
Well, so that was going to be my next question. What is it about Vegas that you love?
I think that's what I love about Vegas. And I think that if you talk to a lot of people, especially in the business community or just in the community, they're going to have the same things to say, is that it's a small town in a big city. Yeah. You come here, you work hard, you know a lot of the same people. This is the one place that you can go to, and I can go and see my congressperson, and I can see that our senator, and I can actually shake their hand. If I was in California or even in Missouri, I might be able to see my state senators or my state people, but I would never get to the federal level.
Well, that's something that that's a great point. I moved here from Washington, D.C., and I was really struck by the fact that when I moved to Nevada, within the first month, someone invited me to an event, and there was Harry Reid standing there. I said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it! It's Harry Reid, this United States senator, a very prominent senator in this country, and people that everyone knew in Washington." The idea that I could meet Harry Reid in Washington D.C. was sort of it seemed like very remote. But here in Las Vegas, you could do it. And then I went to another event, and I saw Dean Heller there. And now, of course, we have two female senators, both great senators. But that's what I love about this city is the accessibility of people in positions of power. This is a town where you actually can meet a United States senator. You can meet the governor at an event where, you also may rub shoulders with someone who's the CEO of a large casino or a titan in the business world. I mean, that's kind of amazing. You can't do that in cities like New York or LA where there's just so many people. That's one thing I personally love about Vegas.
I agree with you totally on that. And you feel like you can make a change.
Yes.
Because you can actually have a real conversation with people.
And then the other thing that has struck me about Las Vegas that I really, really love is that this is such a city with big arms in the sense that big opening arms. There are towns like New York or Los Angeles, not to pick on LA or New York folks, but those are hard cities to break into. If you come there as a newbie and you're trying to start a business, there's old money, there's a power structure in place. Las Vegas is such a welcoming town. It's a city of transplants. I mean, it's kind of almost rare. We joke about it when we meet a native person who's born and raised in Las Vegas. Everyone seems to come here from somewhere else. But it's the type of town that's very welcoming to outsiders. And if you have a great work ethic, you're willing to invest in this city will be good to you. It's certainly been good to me. And that's kind of one of the things I love about Vegas. And I don't know if you can maybe talk about your own experiences in that regard.
Well, I think that I call it the land of opportunity. Because it's like you said, if you want to come here and you just decide to work hard, you can start anywhere and you can have many lifetimes. I feel like I've had a lot of lifetimes, when I first came here, because we were going to make our $1 million in sports, betting sports, So I ended up working in the sports industry, ended up managing a sports book. And it was really a great time because the town was smaller. you had characters. You had people that, like Bobby the Owl. You had characters. Everybody had a name. And so it was so interesting. Everybody had a name. But it was a time also before the banking industry.
Can I go by Paul the PI lawyer?
I think you should. I don't know. We can come up with something better, I'm sure. That is just not colorful enough. But so, but it was a time when cash ruled the town, and banking wasn't into us. People would literally walk in with suitcases full of money and bet, one side of a football game, and then they go down the street and bet another side of the football game.
So I heard a conversation, or I overheard a conversation where you were talking to someone else, and tell me if this is true or not, or is this you just bragging? Is it true that you were once a bookie in Las Vegas?
It's true, and it is me bragging. Absolutely, I'm going to do both at the same time. So yeah, but then you know what? Life got going. I had kids and
legal bookie. We want to make sure we don't create any misunderstandings here. No FBI agents need to show up here on Monday morning.
No, please.
Okay, so you were a bookie in Vegas. Tell us what was that about?
Being a bookie in Vegas was just that. Just it's the stock market. Is what it was. You bet on one side, you bet on the other side. You hope maybe that you're far enough in the spread that both sides win and you hit the jackpot. Just things like that.
Well, I know you are a big gambler. I've seen you bet on sports, and I've seen you win a lot of money in doing it. You've encouraged me to bet on games, and I'm very frugal with my money, so I choose to spend it in other ways. But tell us, folks out there, what's your favorite sports teams?
I don't have favorite sports teams. I have favorite sports. I love college basketball. I was really worried you were going to ask me who's going to win the basketball game tomorrow night because I have no idea. Nobody does. So the Warriors seem to be crumbling. But anyway, it's fun.
So now this is an interesting point. Someone who's worked in the sports industry and then as a bookie and now as a casual gambler, shall we say. Tell us, what do you think about the fact that the Golden Knights are here and now we have the Raiders coming, and then I'm hearing a rumor that the LA Clippers basketball team might be relocating to Las Vegas. This is amazing. I moved here in 2004. I just never thought that I would move to a city and within the span of 15 years we'd end up with potentially 3 major sports teams.
Oh, for certain, because everybody said it would never happen. And don't forget, professional soccer might be on its way too.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be such a big change in this town. We see it because, with the law firm, we're involved in a lot of media.
Yeah.
We're involved in a lot of advertising. And so we talk to a lot of advertising people. And their take on it right now is that, big companies like the Heinekens and the Nikes and those people of the world never paid attention to us because they still treated us, I don't know, for whatever reason, they don't understand. We have 300,000 people coming here over a weekend.
Yeah.
They still never treated us like a big city. Now they're starting to notice us.
Yeah.
Money's going to pour into the city from corporate, which is something that's never happened before.
And what is it about sports that just sort of seems to bring a community together? It's kind of amazing.
Well, really. I think it's the other end of a common enemy.
Yeah.
It's a common good or a common something. And anything in common that brings people together, it's a camaraderie.
I go to the Golden Knights games, and it's amazing to see people of all races, walks of life, celebrating the Golden Knights and coming together as Las Vegans. People feeling united behind this team. I kind of think of it like it's like modern day gladiators, if you will, or these guys are sort of just amazing. I mean, obviously amazing athletes. And maybe that's what we look at when we see these players on the ice or the football players on the field and the Raiders. I mean, they're doing things that we only wish we could do. I can't run that fast. I can't dunk a basketball like that. I'm not that fast on the ice. And these guys are amazing physical specimens, and we are all rooting for them. And there are players almost. It's a kind of an interesting, neat, because I have a background in anthropology, so I'm fascinated by these things. But it's kind of an interesting question, or raises a lot of interesting issues about what is the definition of community and what brings people together.
Well, it's going to be interesting as your study goes on to see if they continue to win. Of course, we'll stay behind them. But what happens when they become the Raiders and they don't win? They have to go find a new home. So it'll be interesting. But no, it does. It brings community together.
Yeah, I think it's a really amazing development for Vegas. And kudos to the politicians and business leaders that have helped make that happen. It's such a huge boost for this city. It's really amazing. All right, so tell us a little bit about your background. Before you became the Chief Operating Officer of Paul Padda Law, I know you were an entrepreneur in your own right. You had started a couple of different businesses. Why don't you tell our folks about what you've done in the past?
Well, I think that, after coming out of the casino industry, because I had children at that time, and you can't work 7 days a week, weekends or holidays, all those things, you just worked all the time. So I decided I was going to go work in an office because, that's where you get to 9 to 5 and you get weekends off. So I went to school, went back to a one-year school, and they taught me how to do office management, for whatever that meant, but at least they showed me how to use a computer, if nothing else. So I did that and sent out a resume to the Bar Association. Clark County Bar Association was hiring for a part-time, of all things, basically I was going to do the newsletter.
Okay.
And so I was going to be their publications person. So they were hiring, and so I was so fortunate, because I'm always fortunate, it seems like, that the director only got one resume, and that was mine. And so I guess she thought nobody else was going to apply for the job, and so she hired me. And I think the day after she hired me, she got like 70 resumes in the mail.
You were the most qualified candidate.
I was,
basically.
though. No, I was the luckiest.
Yeah.
Is what I was. And
All
so
right.
I went to work there, and within a year, she got dream of being starting her own business or doing whatever. And so it's very interesting in a bar association. Basically, your president has 1 year to make an impact. And so when your director just ups and leaves halfway through, you look around and go, am I going to go on a search? And they just said, hey, Patty, how about taking the job?
So that was like leadership by baptism by fire, essentially.
Yes.
You were like, okay, today you're the leader because everyone else has quit.
Yeah, they quit. You know, what are we going to do? Halfway through my year, I got to accomplish something. Why don't you just take the job?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then I became director of Bar Association. Stayed there for about 8 years. And then kind of did the same thing. I said,
You probably got to meet a lot of the who's who among lawyers, huh?
Yes.
A lot of those people now, I think, are judges.
a lot of judges, a lot of very influential people.
Yeah.
Because of that, that's that age group. A lot of them are judges. That's
Is
very true.
there a common denominator among lawyers that you've observed? I know you're not a lawyer, so as a layperson, just kind of observing the personality of lawyers, is
You
there?
meet good lawyers or not as successful lawyers?
No,
or
just lawyers in general.
I don't really think so. I think it's like anybody that has a profession that they actually could go and hang their own shingle. That's the type of person that is. Whether it's an accountant or it's a doctor or it's just anybody who doesn't have to work for somebody. They actually could have their own business. That's the type.
Yeah.
Somebody. And sometimes they love what they do. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes I think they're just humans like everybody else.
Yeah.
Unless you get into the type A's.
Right.
And they're probably going to be the ones that either succeed or they go, I am done. They're burnt out, one or the other.
All right, Clark County Bar Association, and then where to after that?
After the Bar Association, well, I did go to the state bar for a little bit and worked a couple of years as communications director there. And then decided, because I keep seeing a theme, because I see themes in business, and what do you find out about really any small business, and most law firms in this town are small businesses, is that they don't know how to run their business. And usually what's the first thing that goes? Their bookkeeping. And what's the next thing that goes? Their billing. And when their billing goes down, how do they pay the bills? Because they're not getting their invoices out. And so somehow or another, I met up with some guy in Reno who was doing this program called PC Law. And he's like, why don't, because I decided I was going to do billing. He goes, why don't you do this program? You can do it. And so I picked it up, and it was like foreign. But I ended up going ahead and getting certified and learning the program, and then I started setting up law firms. And so I would go in, we'd set up their computers, set up their programs, show them how to do their books, maybe do their books for them, and so just did that for a while. And that was my company. First it was Attorney Services and Planning, then we decided, well, we can branch out and do everybody, so we turned it into Profit
ASAP.
Boosters. ASAP.
That's a good name.
It was good, yeah. But then we were married to attorneys, and so we said, oh, yeah, we need to branch out maybe. So we changed the name.
Okay.
So then, that's when I came to you.
That's right. Well, we'll get to that. So, attorney services and planning, this was something that you were only servicing law firms, or was it just businesses in general?
At that time, it was mostly law firms.
I see.
And so that's when, but then I had some other businesses come, well, can't you do our books? But when you go into a media firm and you say, hey, I can do your books, what's your name? Attorney Services and Planning. It's very confusing.
That's true.
So it was very directional. And
Then
so
it
that's
became
when we
Profit
changed.
Boosters, right?
Then we changed it to Profit Boosters.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Very good. Okay, so we're going to take a little break now, and we're going to go to a segment called Paul Padda for the People. This is where I give out a few tips that hopefully that will be of value to folks who are watching. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Padda for the People. Hi, folks. This is Paul Padda for the People. You might be wondering, why is Paul holding a cell phone in one hand and a license plate in the other? As a personal injury attorney, I'm here to give you a tip. First of all, if you've been in a car accident, like most people, you're probably going to be a little shaken up and confused and not sure what to do. It's only several days later that you think, oh my gosh, I should have done this, I should have done that to document the car accident. Well, listen, if you've got a phone, you have the strongest weapon you could have on your side. Just take a picture of the other driver's license plate. With that information, when you come to see us or you go to see any other lawyer to bring a personal injury claim, you'll be able to get all the information you need in order to pursue your claim. And with the driver's license, we can go to DMV, we can find out who the owner of the vehicle is, we can find out what type of insurance coverage they have. So documenting what happens at the time of an accident is very important, and the most important piece of information you can get is the other driver's license plate number. This is Paul Padda for the people with another tip for you. Thank you. All right, welcome back to Paul Padda Podcast, continuing the conversation with Patty Davidson. And Patty, we left off where we were talking a little bit about your company, Profit Boosters, before you joined me. And when you joined, you became the sort of firm administrator, and then that title changed to Chief Operating Officer to kind of reflect, I know, in terms of all the different tasks that you were doing. Why don't you tell folks out there, what does a Chief Operating Officer do? I think,
to tell that, you kind of tell the history of the firm. Because when I actually set up your firm when you first started.
Yeah, I wanted to avoid that topic because that was when Paul was doing his own bookkeeping in a paper manual. The old-fashioned way. No computers involved.
So I did get to see you guys grow, and you moved. We were downtown, so you moved. And we've been friends. We had stayed in contact, and so I would come in every now and then and show you how to use another feature in PC Law or something. And so you and I just had a conversation. I think we were both at a position where it's like any business. If you're the technician, what we call the technician, you're the one who's still having to do the work. It's very difficult to grow. Because if you're still the one who's having to do the books, and you're having to do the marketing, and you're having to do the business development, and you're still having to do, in my case, the projects, that kind of stuff, you can't grow. And you're in the same position.
I don't know if you remember this conversation, but I'll never forget it, because we were sitting in a conference room, and you had come in, and I just met you, and you were telling me about your business, and we talked about it, and I said, I don't think I really need a bookkeeper because
That's right.
I'm pretty good at math, and I can do the books myself. And you said, well, do you handwrite? And you asked me some questions like, how do you do your books? And I told you I had a ledger that I had bought from Office Depot, and I was very proud of myself that I was recording checks, et cetera. And I said, once in a while, things gonna get out of place, and it's like, I have to spend time on it. And then you asked me a really good question. You said, do you handwrite all of your motions and briefs that you file in court? And I said, well, obviously not. I use a computer. And then you brought up the fact that, it's kind of like you're doing it the 18th century way when there are great programs out there that can help you with your bookkeeping, and how much time are you spending? And it was such a interesting way of putting it, and it kind of made me feel a little bit foolish at the time. And I realized, this is a waste of time. I'm devoting like an hour and a half every day to bookkeeping functions when I could be practicing law. And then that's where I thought I was like, like a lot of entrepreneurs, trying to be a little frugal and not have to spend money. But then when I hired your company, I realized the efficiencies involved, and I was saving so much more time on that function when I could be spending time making money as a lawyer. And that was an eye-opener for me.
And I think you hit it on the head there. It's, do I make money or do I save money? Well, if you're not making any money, you got no money to save.
That's a good point.
And so, you just have to look at it that way. But fast forward, your firm had grown a little bit, and at this point, my firm was kind of growing too, but I was still always pulled back into work. Doing the work. Somebody leave, who's going to cover? And you were in the same situation, except yours was the administration. Somebody would go, you still have to go and try to, patch up the bookkeeping, to keep it going for a while.
Right.
And so I think we had the conversation let's just go ahead and just take a leap of faith here and let me come in and run the administrative part, run the business part, and you go back to lawyering.
Right.
And so that's how we got started. And we were in the other building on Flamingo. I think you had maybe 6, 7 employees at that time.
Right.
And so we just came in and we said,
days.
let's go, the good old days. Sometimes you call them that, sometimes you call them the oh my God days.
Right.
One or the other. And so we came in and we really started looking at the way you were advertising, the systems, like most law firms, because I'm a software fanatic, I love software. And so you had a case management program that nobody was using. It was a calendar, basically.
I want to remind my viewers, I had dinner with a friend last night, and I was dropping him at his hotel, and he said, I remember that old building you were in? You were on top of a marijuana dispensary.
Yes.
And I said, yes. And I was the only personal injury lawyer, maybe the only lawyer in Las Vegas, where my clients would leave happy, not because they necessarily met with me, but because of the aroma in the air.
It was interesting.
That was very interesting, yes.
Yes.
I would come to work in the mornings at 9 o'clock, and there'd be a guy saying, hey, man, you got a light?
Yep.
In the parking lot.
Open the door, you knew there'd been a shipment that came in.
Yeah, exactly.
It was great. But again, that's growth, So we, It's been really interesting to work inside a law firm because I always worked with law firms.
So to give us some insights, what are your observations? I know Chief Operating Officer, you deal now with HR, marketing, obviously the technology side, which is a huge part of our practice.
Finances.
Yeah. What are some of your observations to those people who are watching who might be aspiring entrepreneurs, whether they're lawyers or non-lawyers who are thinking of starting their business? What advice can you offer?
Well, I think that if you're just looking at business in general, you have to decide. You finally have to say, you know what, I'm going to concentrate on business development. I'm going to concentrate on whatever I do. And if I can't do it, get somebody else in to do it. Because otherwise you're just going to continue, as we both were doing, beating your head against the wall, because every time somebody leaves, every time something needs to be done, you're the one who ends up having to step in.
Right.
That's the biggest part. The other part is technology. You have to use your technology. If you go and you get a program that's supposed to handle your cases, such a law firm, use all aspects of the program. Don't just use a calendar and think you're doing really great.
Yeah.
Because I always say, the minute I have to go back to a file and I have to start touching paper more than one time, I'm inefficient.
Yeah.
And so you have to start putting in efficiencies. The other is hire good people.
That's so
Don't think that you're going to go get somebody out of high school and train them to do your books because they're good in numbers.
Yeah.
It's never going to work. Number one, it's not going to work because they're not going to have the knowledge. Number two, you're not going to have the time to train them. You're going to think they are. You know what you're going to say pretty soon? There's no good help in Las Vegas. So common, you know, but there is good help, but you just have to hire people for the right positions.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
I mean, every book I've ever read on management, it really comes down to the people you have. It's really, really true. It's the oldest adage that every organization is only successful because of its people.
Yes, but we've taken it a step further, and it's good when your people fit into your systems.
Yes, that's true.
That's
It's all about
right.
systems.
It's all about systems, coming with procedure, and your people are so tired of hearing about it, but you have to keep them in it.
Yeah.
Because if they leave, if tomorrow, you know, say 2 or 3 of them decided they're going to another law firm, if you don't have written procedure and systems in place.
Well, we kind of like a sports team, right? You can't tell the Raiders, just go out there and play football, right?
Yeah,
These guys
that's
actually,
it.
I don't think most people appreciate how much effort goes into every football game or every basketball game. They watch films from prior teams. They study the quarterback on the other side. I mean, these guys have to be pretty smart. They have to memorize numerous plays so that when the quarterback is calling the call, he'll know, let's go to that play, let's go to that play. That's systems, right?
That's their playbooks.
That's their playbook.
You know, the other part too is that what it's been so enjoyable about coming into a PI firm, I think it would be different than a different kind of firm, is because we advertise and we go out, and we have taken a big turnaround in advertising. As you've seen all the billboards, and you've seen all the ads on TV, and you see, I'm going to get you the most money, and all that kind of stuff has always been typical personal injury advertising.
Yeah.
Well, we, you decided, you said, go ahead and do something different. And so we hired a consultant from New York, Ed Furlow, and he came in a year ago, and we really worked, did some focus groups, did some stuff, and we said, you know what, we're going to take our money and we're going to put it into community outreach.
So before we segue into that, why don't you tell folks who is Ed Furlow?
Ed, well, who is Ed? Ed has been a great asset to our firm. He goes around the country and he does workshops, he works with people, and a big part of it is trying to help them identify who they are. Yeah, they try to figure out who they are, how they're going to brand themselves, what they're going to be, and then he comes back and he says, don't get off your message.
Yeah.
And that's been the hardest part for us, is to stay on our message, because a lot of people, everybody has an opinion on what your message should be, but we really are staying on our message now. We have worked with Cheyenne High School last year.
So what is the message of Paul Padda Law?
The message is, it's not about the injury, it's about the recovery. And
what does that
recovery
mean?
is our theme.
Yes.
Recovery is that when you are in an accident, this is the other thing, just notice, nobody is happy when they come to see a lawyer. What's to be happy about? Either they've got a bad situation going on, or in our case, they've been in an accident, their life has been impacted, they maybe can't work, they have to go see these doctors, they are emotionally upset, because of all this stuff that's going on. Maybe their family doesn't understand what's going on, and so we have to help them recover, we decided. And that's a little bit beyond just giving them a paycheck in the end, because they have to go through this whole process, which may take 6 months, a year, sometimes 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And so you want to be there for them to recover. And so we want to take it a step further in that, how do people recover? Well, sometimes businesses have to step in and help community effort. And so, even though it's still work in progress for us and we're still working on it into the community, we've done things like go to Cheyenne High School. That was a big one for us. And even though it isn't exactly a recovery, it was a community outreach for us.
Yeah.
Help them buy their ACT programs, which, unofficial percentages so far have shown that their grades have already gone up. So we're giving kids that would not have had that opportunity an opportunity to succeed, because education is important to you.
It's huge.
And so I think that's why we started there. But it's been, we're able to have community involvement instead of just going to work and doing the usual 9 to 5.
Right.
You see an effect not only with your clients, but you see an effect with other people too.
Well, so this is something that's interesting, because I can't tell you how many people have come up to me randomly and told me, oh my God, I love your theme on the billboards. People I didn't expect to come up to me, like doctors. People I've worked with, orthopedic surgeons, one orthopedic surgeon came up to me and he said, Paul, that is the greatest message, because it kind of brings us into part of what you do, is that we are part of the recovery. When you send your clients over and they become my patients, I'm helping them with their recovery. And I thought about it, and I thought that's exactly right. And I remember when we met with Ed, what we had him do is he sat down, you may recall, he sat down with a number of our clients and talked to them about what they liked in lawyer advertising, what they didn't like, what was important to them. And the theme that emerged over and over again was, too many attorneys sort of have this self-centric type advertising where it's kind of like they're projecting a certain image about themselves. What we're really trying to do is talk to people about the need that we can fulfill for them, which is, you didn't wake up in the morning thinking you were going to get in a car accident. Now you got to deal with getting your car fixed. Now you got to deal with where do you go to get your medical care. Now you got to worry about, like, am I going to get compensated for days that I miss work? What's my recovery going to look like? And it's just not about compensation in terms of financial terms, but that's part of the recovery. Recovery means also the physical and emotional aspect of it. And so you're right, it's a work in progress. We constantly try to drum this into our staff that it's about providing great customer service, with that in mind, that everything we do has to be focused on helping that client get the best possible recovery, whether that means getting them to the best doctors, making sure they follow up with those medical visits, making sure that they're properly documenting everything in records, all of it. But it's a work in progress, always. It
is a work in progress, and part of the operations is just making sure everything continues to move. We were just talking this morning, because Ed is back in town, and we were going, talking about the recovery theme again, and what are we going to do this time to push it forward again? We come up with some plans, but we also were, you have, as part of the journey, you have little stories that come along,
yes.
Because how did we get the desert dandelion? That was quite a move for us, because we really took it down a notch then, really became the recovery people. And you have to admit, Postali did that for us.
Yes.
They came up with this desert dandelion because it's recovery. If you don't know about a desert dandelion, it can grow out of a crack of desert. It doesn't hardly need water, so we said it's resilient, it's strong, and this is what we try to do for our clients, get them back on track again.
Right.
And we really do, try to do that, so it's not just what we sometimes say, it's not just talking the talk, we're trying to walk that walk.
And also investing in the community, like you talked about with the ACT prep, which is very important to me, the gas cards for TSA employees. It's really just letting people know that we're part of this community, we're part of you, and if somebody's in distress, if a segment of our community needs help, we're going to be there to try to do the best that we can to make our contribution in that effort.
And it's team effort, it's group effort, and it's really, it makes up getting up and coming to work really something you look forward to.
Yeah, that's really true. So any other things coming up that folks need to know about with respect to
Well, you just have
engagement?
to know this podcast is new for us, and this is going to be on every Thursday, and this is going to be not just us talking. I'm just the test person, because I'm the first one. So
the guinea pig.
The guinea pig. But it's going to have we're going to have some really good people, and they're going to really put out there different things about life, about living in Las Vegas, about things that are out there to help you if you're here. Opportunities. It's gonna be fun.
Awesome. Folks, if you have suggestions, call in at 702-366-1888 or send us a message on Facebook. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining the Paul Padda Podcast today. Until next time, I'll see you then. Take care.